You don't get a handshake, not from me." The white CEO said it loud enough for the room to hear, leaving her palm in the air like a gate slammed shut. The black investor stood there with his hand extended, face calm, eyes steady, while the whole boardroom froze in that thin, ugly silence. No one moved. No one breathed. And in that moment, a single choice planted a storm that would break over her life by sunrise. The investor's name was Elias Carter. 42 tall, clean suit that didn't shout money but carried it anyway. His skin was deep brown, his hair close cropped, his voice low and careful. He didn't arrive with an entourage. He arrived with presence. The kind that makes people sit straighter without knowing why. He had built his own firm from nothing, sleeping in his car early on, working 2 jobs while teaching himself finance at night. In rooms like this, he was used to being tested, but he was also used to surviving tests without losing his dignity. The meeting was at Valencrest Industries, a company known for polished glass offices and sharper ambition. Their CEO, Meredith Vale, had a reputation for being fearless and brilliant. 38, blonde bob cut, tailored white suit, posture like a blade. She had risen fast, breaking ceilings in a world that didn't want to hand her a seat. She loved control because she learned early what happens when you don't hold it. Part of her was admired for that. Part of her was feared. But another part of her had an old flaw she never named. She believed power meant choosing who deserved warmth. Elias was there to discuss a major investment round. His firm could bring not just capital, but credibility, global reach, a future the company had been chasing for years. The board knew it. The CFO knew it. Even Meredith knew it. That's why she had invited him personally. Still, when he walked in, something tightened in her chest. It was the way people whispered his success with a kind of respect she wanted for herself. It was the way he didn't look impressed by the marble lobby. It was the way the room leaned toward him before she even spoke. A small, bitter fear rose in her, the fear of not being the center. She told herself it was professionalism. She told herself it was caution. Then she made it personal. When Elias reached out his hand, she didn't take it. She didn't even smile. She said he didn't get a handshake. She said they were not friends. She said they would talk business only, because she didn't trust people who chased attention through charity headlines and feel-good speeches. Her words weren't a slur. That's why they were so dangerous. They were clean, sharp, and cruel, in a way that could be defended later. The kind of cruelty that hides behind tone. Elias didn't flinch. He didn't pull his hand back in a rush. He lowered it slowly, like he was setting something down with care. His face stayed calm. But inside, a familiar ache moved through him. The ache of being reduced in a room you're helping to build. He looked around. The board members shifted in their seats. One stared at his notepad. Another cleared his throat and said nothing. Their silence was loud. It wasn't agreement. It was fear of losing their jobs. It's the kind of fear that makes injustice feel normal. Elias nodded once and said he understood, said they could start. For the next hour, he spoke with measured clarity. He asked hard questions about supply chains, product margins, and risk. He listened to their answers without interrupting, eyes steady, mind scanning. He offered a path to expansion that would save them millions over 2 years. He outlined a partnership network they couldn't reach alone. The board leaned in, hungry for every word. Meredith tried to keep her edge, but the truth moved faster than her ego. Elias wasn't there for applause. He was there for results. Didn't perform strength. He lived it. When the meeting ended, Elias thanked the room politely, gathered his notes, and walked out. He didn't slam the door. He didn't threaten. He didn't even look back. His silence had weight, and everyone felt it. Meredith exhaled like she had won something. The wind felt thin. Later that evening, the CFO, Tanya Brooks, knocked on Meredith's office door. Tanya was in her 50s, black, brilliant, patient in a way that comes from surviving long enough to stop tolerating nonsense. She didn't sit. She told Meredith the investors' team had called. They were stepping away from the deal. Meredith blinked. She asked why. She said they had a great meeting. Tanya said the meeting wasn't the problem. Disrespect was. Meredith scoffed softly, saying she had been professional. That Elias was too sensitive, that investors don't make decisions based on feelings. Tanya didn't raise her voice. She just said something quiet that landed like a verdict. People with real power don't need to humiliate anyone to prove it. Meredith felt a heat rise in her throat. She tried to answer, but Tanya had already turned to leave. At the door, Tanya added one more truth. Elias Carter wasn't just any investor. He was the anchor of the round. 2 other firms were tied to him. If he walked, the whole round collapsed. The office suddenly felt smaller. Meredith opened her laptop, firing off emails. 2 other firms, trying to patch a deal without Elias. She got polite delays, vague excuses, and then silence. By midnight, her phone buzzed with a breaking news alert. Valencrest stock was sliding after rumors of a failed funding round hit the market. The message was spreading faster than she could control. She called her PR lead. She called her legal team. She called anybody who could hold the leak. Nobody could. The market smells weakness like blood. By dawn, the board was in emergency mode. The chair called Meredith into a private meeting. Faces were tight now. The same people who stayed silent yesterday were not silent today. They said the company couldn't survive another quarter without funding. They said Elias was the key. She felt what it meant to be powerless in a room she built. Not because someone yelled at her, but because consequences had arrived. She went back to her office and stared out at the city. The morning light was pale, unforgiving. Her reflection in the window looked smaller than she remembered. She could still hear her own voice from yesterday, cool and certain. She heard Elias's silence too. That silence was louder now. She picked up her phone and called him. Elias answered calmly. Not quickly, not slow, just steady. Meredith didn't posture. She didn't defend. She apologized. She said she had been wrong and disrespectful. She asked for a meeting to repair the deal, and more than that, to repair the harm. Elias listened without interrupting. He knew she was afraid. Not of him, of failure, of losing everything. When she finished, he spoke softly. He said he didn't walk away because he was offended. He walked away because character is part of business. He said he had fought too hard to build a firm that invests in people who can lead without crushing others. He said if she wanted another meeting, it wouldn't be to beg for money. It would be to show she understood what respect costs and why it matters. Meredith swallowed, said she did. They met that afternoon in a smaller room, no board, no audience, just 2 people and a truth between them. Meredith didn't ask for a handshake this time. She offered one without sound, just a steady open palm and a steady eye. Elias took it. The power shift wasn't loud, it was clean. Meredith spoke honestly. She admitted her fear of losing control, her habit of hard edges. Her mistake in thinking respect was something you give only when you feel safe. Elias didn't gloat. He didn't shame her. He set terms that protected the company and the culture. He required a leadership accountability plan. He required diversity in the next executive hires. He required that Meredith herself attend community roundtables, not for cameras, but for listening. Meredith agreed. Not because she was cornered, but because something in her finally woke up. The deal went through. The stock recovered. The company grew. But the deeper resolution was quieter. People. Inside, Valencrest noticed a change in their CEO. She began asking questions instead of giving orders first. She began crediting teams by name. She began treating every person on the floor like they mattered, because she had learned that power without respect is just fear wearing a suit. Weeks later, Tanya saw Meredith in the hallway holding a door for an intern, speaking with a softness that wasn't forced. Tanya nodded once. Meredith nodded back. Nothing else needed to be said. Some lessons don't arrive as punishment. They arrive as mirrors. Meredith had refused a handshake to prove she was above someone. She ended up begging for a meeting to prove she was worthy of leading it all. And Elias had never raised his voice. His dignity did the work for him. If this story hit you, comment where you're watching from and tell us what true respect looks like in your world. Share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more stories about quiet strength, hard lessons, and the kind of justice that doesn't need to shout to be felt.